No modern military conflict can be imagined without the use of infantry. But since the First World War, approaches to assaulting enemy positions have changed somewhat. Nowadays, most attacks are carried out with the support of heavy armored vehicles, particularly during the Russian-Ukrainian war. Welcome to another episode of Machine Madness, where we will look at the most popular armored vehicles of this war. Today we will look at the various main types of armored vehicles from both the Ukrainian and Russian sides, comparing their characteristics and effectiveness on the battlefield. MTLB. Let's start with a very interesting specimen, namely the MTLB, which stands for Multi-Purpose Tractor Light Armored. The main task, as the name implies, is to transport cargo. But in the realities of this war, it is also used as an infantry delivery vehicle to the contact line, which is strange and interesting because such actions put the crew and troops at risk of fire because the armor is very minimal and the only weaponry is a machine gun for self-defense, not for supporting the infantry. Nevertheless, the first samples of this vehicle began to be used by the armed forces of the Soviet Union back in 1964 and were produced by the Kharkiv tractor plant, which is located in modern-day Ukraine. But production expanded to other countries. In total, more than 9,000 copies were produced. The main operators are Ukraine and Russia, with 2,090 and 3,950 units respectively. It should also be noted that over the past 2 years, MTLB has undergone some changes. For example, the Russian side has repeatedly spotted these tractors with shipboard artillery guns, where even the appearance of this Russian opinion suggests that it should not be so. However, the Ukrainians are not lagging behind and also modified their armored vehicles, for example, MTLBs with more powerful machine guns or grenade launchers and anti-tank systems. In the end, the two sides end up with something very interesting and unconventional. In the end, I would like to mention the losses of these vehicles, and they may surprise you. Ukraine has lost 112 vehicles in total, according to the Oryx portal, while Russia has lost 1,003 vehicles. BMP-1. The next vehicle I want to talk about is also not the first of its kind, but it is not without its interesting features. We are talking about the BMP-1. This is a real infantry support vehicle, unlike the MTLB, because it has some protection. However, everything is not so smooth here either, because this protection will not save from RPG missiles or mines, which in the language of modern warfare makes it a rather dangerous vehicle for our own military, because Ukrainian fields are now dotted with hundreds of thousands of mines of various types. By the way, it is because of this problem that the military unofficially call this vehicle the infantry mass grave, because no one can survive an explosion. However, if we talk about the advantages of this vehicle, it is worth noting that it is the world's first mass-produced combat vehicle that can swim, which is still useful when facing water obstacles. The BMP-1 is also equipped with a 73mm tank gun, which is designed to destroy enemy tanks, self-propelled artillery systems and armored vehicles, as well as to destroy enemy positions and manpower. In addition, this vehicle turned out to be quite mass-produced, as more than 23,000 vehicles were manufactured. Russia and Ukraine are two operators of these vehicles. Russia has 800 units in service and another 2,400 in storage, while Ukraine has a total of just over 400. However, neither side has many of these vehicles left, as Ukraine has already lost 394 vehicles and Russia 740. Such a large number of losses is explained by the weak defense we mentioned earlier. In general, we can say that the vehicle was not bad for its time, provided that technology did not develop, but it is not suitable for modern warfare. BMP-2. As you can easily guess, the BMP-2 is a direct successor to the BMP-1 with some improvements. The main functions of infantry transportation and support during combat remain, but this time with a new 30mm cannon. Another innovation is the ability to use the vehicle in conditions of nuclear weapons use on the battlefield, and this is where the main noticeable changes end. I would just like to add that if you were impressed by any losses of previous vehicles in this video, sit down if you are standing, because Russia alone lost 1,314 vehicles, Ukraine 202. There's nothing else good to say here. No conclusions have been drawn from the previous one. BTR-3. The BTR-3 is the first Ukrainian armoured personnel carrier in this video. Unlike all the previous videos, this one has an 8x8 wheel configuration, but not tracks. What is interesting is that this vehicle was developed at the Kharkiv tractor plant, which we already know, first under a contract for the UAE and then to meet the needs of the army itself. Therefore, it entered service with the armed forces of Ukraine only in 2015. Thanks to its modern technological base and high level of armour, the BTR-3 is able to effectively protect the military from fire and provide them with the necessary mobility on the battlefield. It is armed with a 30mm stabilised cannon, which is a good combination for supporting infantry during assaults. In addition, it can be equipped with anti-tank missile systems to fire at enemy armoured vehicles at long range. Since the vehicle was initially focused on export, the largest operators are Thailand, Ukraine and the UAE. In total, more than 700 units have been produced and contracts are in place for at least another 1,000 units, which is a good sign for Ukrainian armoured vehicles. Before that, 44 units of this equipment were lost during the war. BMD-2. A Soviet-Russian development of an airborne combat vehicle designed for use by airborne troops. According to Russian media, the Russian armed forces are currently using modernized BMD-2s, which are equipped with a more accurate weapon system. This includes the classic 30mm cannon, as well as an anti-tank missile system, which adds to the formidability of this vehicle on the battlefield. In addition, it is claimed that there should be good enough armour, but according to the results of the war in Afghanistan, armour has become the weak point of this vehicle. The use of such vehicles was noticed in the first days of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in the Kyiv region, namely Hostomel, where the Russian landing force was trying to land. In total, 384 BMD-2 units were destroyed. Now, I would like to make some explanations about the reliability of the armour of these vehicles. As you may have noticed, most of them were produced in the Soviet Union, where the basic concept of armoured vehicles looked somewhat different than in Europe or America. While the Western school of tank design teaches us to maximise crew safety, the Soviet and Russian school tries to take quantity rather than quality. During the development of heavy armoured vehicles after World War II, the Soviet approach looked something like this. We produce 10,000 vehicles, and if we are lucky, 1,000 will reach the Atlantic Ocean. It is this principle that explains such huge numbers of vehicles produced and the high mortality rate of Soviet vehicles on the battlefield. Now I would like to talk about the most modern armoured vehicles of the two countries. Let's start with Russia and its BMP-3. BMP-3. Yes, you have correctly noticed that absolutely all Soviet BMPs are participating in this war. This time, the differences with BMP-2 are a bit more significant than the previous time. For example, this time it is equipped with a 100mm cannon along with a 30mm cannon and 2 machine guns in the hull. Also, the armour has finally been significantly improved. Initially, it was only an aluminium hull and turret, and after operating in Syria, some improvements were made in the form of dynamic protection against anti-tank missiles. However, the problem of poor mine protection was never solved. Therefore, this and other problems led to the loss of 415 units of BMP-3. BTR-4. The BTR-4 is the most modern Ukrainian armoured personnel carrier at the moment, but despite the higher number in the name than the BTR-3, it entered service with the Armed Forces of Ukraine 3 years earlier. It was also developed in Kharkiv and is somewhat similar to its predecessors in terms of the main 30mm gun, but it has an anti-tank missile system, a 30mm grenade launcher and a 7.62mm machine gun. And this armoured personnel carrier finally has some kind of mine protection, so the crew will have a chance to escape. The main and largest operator of this vehicle is Ukraine, which had 200 units of this equipment at the beginning of the large-scale invasion. However, 94 units have already been lost since then. But in general, we can say that this is a powerful enough vehicle on a modern battlefield that is already on par with NATO equipment. Thank you for watching. Share your opinion in the comments. What do you think about the mentioned armoured vehicles and their evolution? It will be interesting to read. You have been to the Machine Madness channel. See you in the next video.